YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Today we got an interesting video. So I was just browsing YouTube, browsing Celtics content, and I saw this video title and it grabbed me. It got my attention. It's from the Celtics Beat podcast hosted by Adam Kaufman, and the title was Dennis Schroder could conflict with the Celtics team chemistry. And it got me thinking, at first I was like, come on, that's just sort of like a hate video, right? But then when you think about it, there is an argument to be made on both sides here. First off, Dennis Schroder's going for that bag. That usually doesn't translate to like an ultimate team player, especially a guy that we're bringing in as a point guard. That sort of, hey, I'm going to try and get my bag because I fumbled the bag this past offseason. That doesn't usually translate into the ultimate team type player. But then on the other side of things, you could make the argument that this dude is hungry. He's trying to right the wrongs. He's going to go out there and be the best player that he can be, whether it's scoring, passing, defending, anything like that. He's going to go balls to the wall and grind to get that bag next offseason. So there is sort of like, with that bag and the big payday next year, both that in mind, like both sides of these make sense. And I'm curious to see where they go down in this show. Do they think, okay, this could happen, but it won't? Or is Adam Kaufman and his guests, are they like totally in on the idea that this guy's going to be a chemistry wrecker? Before I played it, I was like, you know what, let me fire up the camera, let me get the mic going because I think this is going to be a good reaction video. So that's what we're doing here today. We're jumping into that. And I think we've reacted to a couple other Celtics Beat podcast clips on the channel as well. So always down to react to these. But yeah, that title definitely got me and I'm curious to see what angle these dudes come in at this topic from. So yeah, let's jump right into it. Before we jump into it, guys, make sure to hit that subscribe button and like the video. We are so close to 2,000 subscribers. I'm trying to hit that by the start of the Celtics season and we're well on our way to doing it. And I cannot do that without you guys. So please hit that subscribe button and like the video and then comment down below. Do you think Dennis Schroder is going to be, a team chemistry ruiner? Is he going to be the guy that comes in and throws a wrench into the entire system because he's trying to get that payday next year? Or is he going to try and get that payday next year and play phenomenally because he knows what's on the line? Let me know in the comments down below. All right, again, I'm curious to see my biggest sort of thing that I'm looking for in this video is like, what are the angles that it looks like, Adam Kaufman's coming at and Chris Forsberg is guest. What is the angle that he's coming at here? Like, do they truly believe this? Or are they just kind of throwing it out there that, hey, it could happen? I'm curious.
Sort of knows their role. Somehow we went full circle with the wrestling and coming back to the Rock. But if everybody knows their role and understands the hierarchy and doesn't get outside themselves. Now, the big outlier in all this is Schroder. And this is the one reason I didn't love the signing is that I do think you have a guy who quite clearly turned down $20 million a year, and his entire goal this season is going to be to get back to a level where he's making $20 million or plus a year, wants to be a $100 million guy.
I can't disagree with that, right? Like if you think that Dennis Schroder is going to take a pay cut next year to stay with the Celtics or take a hometown discount because he loves it here, I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible, but that is so far-fetched to me. Like, this guy legitimately had a historic fumbling of the bag this past offseason. There's no way he's going to tuck tail and turn around and collect a discount next offseason. Like, he's still going for the money. So I think that that's probably the main issue here in the middle of this topic, right? Like, he wants that money. If there's no money or talking about having to prove himself to the rest of the league because he blew last year, I don't think we're worried about Dennis Schroder's chemistry. But I think what the point of concern here is that he's not going to go out there and be content with 10 points a game playing 20 minutes a night. If he's going to go and try and get that money next offseason, he's going to try and be a starter. He's going to try and shoot a lot. Is that going to be good or bad for the Celtics? I think that that's still, it remains to be seen. But there's no denying that Dennis Schroder wants that money, especially because he blew it this past year.
How does he do that when he's not potentially a starter? When, his desires offensively could conflict with what the team how it does its best. So eager to see, but it's also where, if it doesn't work, tradable asset, there will be playoff.
I don't know about a tradable asset. I don't know
teams
about
out
that.
there that will covet a player with that much talent.
Yeah, I mean, I'm doubling down here. I don't know if Dennis Schroder, if the Celtics are going to possibly trade him or look to trade him, that one means he's probably not playing well. He's not fitting with their team, right? Meaning that I don't think a playoff team's going to look at him and be like, oh my God, let's go get Dennis Schroder to make a playoff run. And then on top of that, you're talking, trade deadline or whatever. Now all of a sudden you're looking at half of a year of Schroder. You throw that on top of the fact that the only reason the Celtics are trading him is because he's not playing as well as they'd hope. I don't think any team's going to be jumping at the bit to go and get him at all.
Talent, but he's the one guy where I'm like, he's got to really sort of check the ego.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. Like he's the ego issue.
Brad and Ime are trying to do.
That's the thing. It's just, that's where I get sort of, you know, my brain goes into a pretzel, because I don't understand how you can serve both masters there. I don't understand how, like, people have written about it, like how Dennis Schroder can be the best version of himself, and that's the best thing he can do for the Celtics and fit right in. And it's like, well, great. If he does that and he's averaging 10, 12 points a game and he's a player.
Oh, wait a second. Did I hear that right?
And that's the best thing he can do for the Celtics and fit right in. And it's like, well, great. If he does that and he's averaging 10, 12 points a game.
Kaufman, what are we talking about here? You cannot put in the same sentence Dennis Schroder, the best version of himself, averaging 10 to 12 points a game. If Dennis Schroder is the best version of himself here in Boston, he's averaging 16, 17, 18. Regardless if he's off the bench, regardless if he's starting by end of year, anything like that, 10 to 12 points is not the best version of himself. Like 10 to 12 points from Schroder is, in my opinion, that probably is a flop of a signing, regardless of the money you're paying him and how cheap you have him right now. You did not go out and get him for 10 points a game.
And he's a playmaker, and he's not a distraction. He's a good teammate, good soldier, good whatever you want to classify it
all
as.
That I agree with, but 10 to 12 points,
coming off the bench and all that. Fine, great. I mean, good for the Celtics, which ultimately is what I care about. But in what way is that going to lead him to a $80 million deal? It's not.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of money out there next year either. You've seen a lot of guys like Josh Richardson sign for essentially mid-level money because they know that second kind of cut of guys is not going to get the few pennies that are out there. So I think Schroeder does have to worry about that in terms of, even if he has a great year, you know, is he going to get what he desires? He's just really sort of trying to play himself into one of those few teams that has money to spend in a market that will have less point guards than this past summer. Maybe he finds a situation. But my pitch to him, if I'm Brad Stevens and Ime Udoka, is let's roll it back to when you were in Oklahoma City, when you were six-man of the year candidate.
Yeah, but didn't he average like 18 points off the bench that year?
He did. And so, you know, but look, the Celtics bench might need scoring. Like, I don't know who's scoring on this bench. You know, if Nesmith starts, you know, Josh Richardson and Schroeder could be like your main offensive weapons. Peyton, if he, you know, depending on how much he plays, there might be an opportunity for him to take a bunch of shots with that second unit.
100%
there's going to be a balance.
100%.
And you might just have to be okay with, if the Celtics exceed expectations and if Schroeder's a part of that, then his value will just go up naturally. It's the same reason that, like, when teams have success, assistant coaches get better chances for head coaching jobs, because we have this, you know, we just not trick ourselves, and some of them are largely deserving, but there's also this notion of like, wow, the Patriots win a lot, so their assistant coaches must be great as head coaches. Doesn't always work out. So, you know, if Schroeder buys in, and that's going to be tough for him, I do think the riches await. If
I don't love the already sort of, we're cementing it in that it's going to be tough for him to buy in. You know what I mean? Like, he already, what did he tweet? And he Instagrammed how excited he was to come and play for Boston. They had their roster at that time. Like, he knows the situation he's going into. I don't think Dennis Schroder night one could be saying, hey, you're coming off the bench. And all of a sudden he's like, what? I thought I was going to be the leading scorer and starter this year. No, I have a feeling he's a little more in the know than anyone else outside of him. But I don't think I'm ready to just like cement it and put it in stone saying like, oh, he's going to have a tough time adjusting to the chemistry. Like, I think that he has to know what he's walking into.
And if not, you know what? Again, they'll trade him to a contender, and you know, it's a hard situation because teams aren't going to have his rights and aren't going to be able to pay him. But
a contender isn't. You know, I don't know if a contender pulls the trigger on him.
And he's got to fire his agent for not getting him that. or maybe it's just all on Schroeder. Maybe the agent was like, you really need to take this extension, and Schroeder just didn't do it and put himself in this position. But
I can almost picture like Nerlens Noel sitting there going, bro, don't, you got to take it.
I don't think it was a coincidence that, what was it, like a day after Schroeder signed, Marcus Smart signed his extension. Like, You know what? 4 years, $77 million sounds pretty good.
Yeah. Marcus Smart didn't want to miss
security. You don't want to, you know, turn down, you know, the golden offer when it's there, because you just never know what's ahead. And so,
I bet there's a lot of guys in the NBA that just like their eyes were peeled open, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, that can't happen to me. Like, watching Schroder go through that, they were probably like, when a team offers me an extension, I'm going to think long and freaking hard before I decline that extension. I think I'm going to take it.
Hey, that's why it's always a risk reward for all these guys, and Rob too. Like, I was stunned the number Rob signed for, but he's probably looking at it the same way that the Celtics did and said, you got to prove it, you got to stay healthy, and you're probably not going to have a huge market if you don't next year. So take your payday when you can.
All right, guys. So my full take on, do I think Dennis Schroder is going to ruin the Celtics chemistry or, you know, conflict with the Celtics team chemistry? Well, first and foremost, before I even give my take, like, you can't guarantee that. Like, Kaufman and Forsberg here being like, I think he's going to have a tough time fitting in with the team. Based on what? Based on what? Because he wanted a lot of money and he didn't get a lot of money, all of a sudden, you know, he's sulking in the corner. I'm not going to buy into that until I see that in front of me. If Dennis Schroder is a sour apple, then I'll say, hey, that dude's a sour apple. But I'm not going to look at him now and be like, yeah, he's not going to fit in. But my guess, and my hope, I guess, is that he is going to sort of just fit with this team. Like, he knows the role that he's walking into. He had to put the ink on the paper. You know, like, he had to sign with the Celtics. They didn't force him into this. No one forced him into this. Regardless of the money, he chose to come here. And I think that he knows the situation that he's walking into. The saying of high tides rise all ships, Dennis Schroder could be a perfect example of that. He could come here and average 16 points off the bench, which wouldn't be his best scoring year, but 16 points off the bench. The Celtics are way better and they blow out expectations of people. And all of a sudden, people around the league are saying, hey, Schroder averaged 16 points. We've seen him average, you know, 18, 19 before in his career. This was off the bench, and he made this team even better. Let's throw a big contract at him. That's not a fairy tale or a fantasy land type of scenario. Like, Dennis Schroder could get the Celtics to that 3 spot. They could go, you know, a little bit deeper than people expect in the playoffs. And all of a sudden, and then the teams around the league are looking at him saying, he was a pretty big part of that, you know, regardless if he didn't hit that 18 points per game mark. Maybe he only averaged 15 and, you know, 7 assists. It's like, he was a huge part of that team's success. That's worth the money to us. So that's sort of the side of the fence that I'm on right now. I think Dennis Schroder is going to be really good here. And the fact that they were kind of talking about, hey, is there going to be enough shots to go around in the second unit? Like, are you crazy? What do you mean? What do you mean, are there going to be shots in the second unit? I get the Celtics are a lot deeper than they were last year, but you can't tell me Aaron Nesmith, Romeo Langford, Peyton Pritchard are all going to be sort of threats to take shots away from Dennis Schroder. Like, I hope that all those guys take a step up and get a little bit better, but Dennis Schroder's a way more proven pro than any of those guys. If he's in the second unit, which I predict he will be, the shots are going to be his. As many as he wants when that second unit's out there, so I'm not concerned about that. I don't know where that take came from, but yeah, I'm on the side of Dennis Schroder will fit here. Like I said, it's all based on a guess, like everyone else's guess. Your guess is as good as mine. I'm on the side that he's going to fit here, and I'm super excited to see him sort of grind and play hard because he wants that money next year. Like, I want to see him work for that money. I don't think it's going to be a detriment to the team or ruin the team's chemistry. I think that him trying to get that paycheck is going to benefit the Celtics, and I'm excited for it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you agree with me? Or are you a little bit more in line here with Adam Kaufman and Chris Forsberg? Let me know in the comments down below. As always, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. I'll catch you guys in the next video.